Kick Dabby, and today I am talking about a book I'm really excited to talk about, Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I got an ARC of this book at YALLFest back in November, and I actually hadn't heard that much about it, but the people that I went to YALLFest with had, and were talking about it, and were making it seem like this was going to be the greatest book ever. And I was like, alright, I'm gonna get one too, because if it's gonna be that awesome, I'm gonna want one. I am so glad that they convinced me to get this book. It was absolutely amazing. One interesting thing is this ARC is actually 600 pages, whereas the published copy, which I had to look through in Barnes & Noble because it's so pretty and awesome, and I had literally just finished this book as I'm walking into Barnes & Noble and it's on the shelf and I'm like, I need to look through this thing. Anyway, that one is actually I think 525 pages, so this one is 75 pages longer, but it looked like the text size was much smaller in the published version, so I'm hoping that that is the difference, because there's nothing I think should really be cut out of this, and that's a good like eighth of this book. But like I said, the text size did look significantly smaller, so I think that's the main difference. There might have been a couple other little things. Anyway, if I say something that doesn't make sense because it didn't happen in this book, that could be why, but I really don't think so. Anyway, if you don't know, this book, I don't even know how to describe this book, it's so good. It's mostly about a girl named Zaylee. She has magic in her blood, but magic disappeared 11 years before the book began. And once magic disappeared, the king came in and murdered all of the people that were able to do magic, but only the people that could actually do it, which means their powers set in at 13, so anybody younger than 13 survived because they had never felt the magic to miss it once it was gone, so the king didn't feel like he needed to kill them. That's where Zaylee comes in. She, I believe, was 6 when the magic disappeared, so her mother was killed and her father was beaten for trying to protect her mother, and she has lived her whole life knowing that she's supposed to have this magic, but she doesn't because magic doesn't exist. Anyway, things happen, and all of a sudden, Zaylee has the opportunity to bring magic back to the world with the help of her brother and Amari, who is actually the princess. So the story follows 3 people. I think Zaylee is like the main character, but it also follows Amari, who's the princess, who became best friends with one of her servants, who's then murdered by her father because of magic. And she decides that enough is enough, and she's going to defy her father and try to help bring magic back to the people. And Anan, Amari's brother, who, unlike Amari, he wants to be king someday, and he believes that his duty to his father and his country goes above any morals or anything else that he has. Obviously, it gets a lot more complicated than that in 600 pages or 525 pages, depending on how you look at it. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm not getting into spoilers yet. I do want to talk about the book overall a little bit more, and Tomi Adeyemi, because I had an opportunity to see her twice. The first time I saw her was actually at YALLFest as I was getting this book. It's signed all pretty. And then I got to see her again about a week ago at Nova Teen Book Festival. And there I got to see her have a wonderful conversation with Danielle Clayton. I'm going to have a link to my Nova Teen Book Festival roundup up there and down below. Please check that out. I did get 3 videos of this conversation I'm about to talk about, including what I'm about to say, and it's really worth watching. Anyway, one of the things that she talked about was how she came up with this book. And she decided she wanted to be a writer for real, and she had these 2 book ideas in her head. One was a fantasy adventure, and the other was more of a Black Lives Matter book. And apparently her boyfriend was the one that said, sounds like those could be the same book. And this is what came of it, and it's so good. It really is that fantasy adventure with that Black Lives Matter feel to it, and it's everything I needed in a book right now. So one thing that's interesting is the book takes place, well, it follows the Nigerian gods, I believe, which are how they got the power. They blessed these certain people that end up having white hair and really dark skin, and that's how they know that they are blessed by the gods. And they're the ones that have the magic in their blood. But in the current system, now that magic is gone, those people are considered maggots because they're dirty, and things are really bad for them. They are either enslaved or just looked down upon, and it's terrible. And the interesting thing is there are no white people in this book, so part of it is a really big reminder that even outside of like white versus black racism, within black culture, historically, there was still a superiority of lighter skinned people over darker skinned people. And that's what's really present in this. And it's fascinating. It really grounds the story in current day topics. It's so worth reading. It's absolutely amazing. There are terrible horrors in it. The disregard for people's lives is insane. And again, very current, unfortunately. And I just can't recommend this book enough. Everybody needs to read it. Please go read it. I was hoping that I would finish it and have this video up when it was released, but that didn't happen. But now I'm like a week and a half after its release, and everybody needs to read it. Go read it. Yeah. I am going to give my official spoiler warning now. If you have not read this book, definitely go read it like right now, and then come back and you can watch the rest of this video. Okay. Okay, bye if you haven't read it. Stick around if you have. Okay, hi people that have read it. I love this book. Have I mentioned that? I feel like I want to talk mostly about what I think is going to happen in the future, but let me get into some specific things. So another thing that Tomi talked about in that conversation was a part of the book that she wrote after Philando Castile was killed, and that was like the third murder by police in a week, I believe, or a little, I think it was a little over a week. And she said that she had just broken down and couldn't get out of bed, and her boyfriend again, she sounds like she's the most amazing boyfriend ever. Her boyfriend again was like, you need to put this into your writing. You need to do something positive with this. So she said that she wrote a scene, and of everything that has changed in all of the drafts of this book, that is the one scene that has remained substantially the same throughout the entire process. And she said this as I was reading the book. I was about a quarter of my way through the book as I'm listening to this. And then I go home after this festival and I'm reading, and I think I know what section it was. I think it's that point when, and again, hopefully if you're watching this, you've already read the book. I think it's that point when Zaylee breaks down and is like, I'm afraid all the time. Because I was reading that and I'm just like, holy crap, this has to be the part she was talking about. She just explains her fears and how no matter what she does, no matter how strong she seems, no matter how strong she forces herself to be, she's just afraid all the time. And it's so powerful. I'm really mad about the way Anand's story ended, because he had made so much growth and he had gone so far, and then he's just like, but in the end, magic is kind of evil. But so that whole thing was interesting, because I honestly don't know where I stand on the whole, like, is magic good or evil thing, because I obviously see both sides. Like, yes, magic in the wrong hands is terrifying. I kind of ended in the headspace that Zaylee was in, because she even said when the magic is in the wrong hands, it can be absolutely terrible and do terrible things. However, not having the magic makes the people being targeted powerless. And the fact that they're being targeted because they once had this magic that they no longer have makes it so much worse. Now, the interesting thing is, I was seeing a bit of a parallel between the magic in this and the gun control issues happening right now. I'm getting very political in this video, by the way. The gun control issues, yet I'm on opposite sides in the two things. And that was kind of upsetting for me to realize, because when it comes to gun control, I'm like, well, some bad people are gonna have them, therefore we don't need guns. I mean, not that they should. Hopefully you know what I mean. We need more gun control, rather, because when it's in the wrong hands, it's terrible. Versus in this, I'm like, okay, magic in the wrong hands can be terrible, yes, but the people needed to protect themselves. And then I was like, okay, where does the hypocrisy of my stance come from? And honestly, it all comes down to oppression. In our current society, it tends to not be the people that are oppressed that take advantage of these firearms. It might be like individuals who feel oppressed, but it's not the population that is oppressed that's taking advantage of the firearms. In the book, it's the oppressed population that needs their magic. That's what it comes down to. It's, are you fighting for your own survival, or are you fighting to take down others? And in the book situation, they're fighting for their own survival. In our real life, it seems to be more, we just want to either have guns because we feel like it, or to take down others. And that is the difference. And sorry, I just got real political there for a second. Anyway, I connected the most with Armani, even though I think I have the least to talk about with her. But I did really like her storyline, the fact that she was able to see a wrongdoing. And even though she was in a position where she was very comfortable and she could have very easily just cried in her room and been like, well, I'm not like this. She could have very much done the All Lives Matter thing and been like, not all royalty is like this, but she didn't. She said, you know what, this is wrong. I'm going to do what I can to fix it. And she stole that parchment. She happened to find Zaylee, who I'm sure in the story the gods had to do with that. And she's doing something to fix it. A lot happened, obviously. I'm not going to get into everything, partly because I'm like reading 2 other books now. So at one point we think Anan died. I know, it's terrible. Towards the end, like, do we know he survived? Because the last we saw, the king was trying to kill him and he had blood coming out through his mouth, and then we don't see him again. We know for a fact the king is dead because we see him die, right? But we don't see whether Anan survived or not. He has to survive because he has to be a huge issue in the future, but I don't know, because then now Armani wants to take over the throne, but I assume Anan is going to be in the way, and there's going to be like this big sibling rivalry thing, which is going to be interesting because down at their hearts, like, even though they have fought each other and Anan literally really hurt her, they do love each other sincerely, and that's intriguing. And now Armani has magic! So all 3 of them have magic, and yeah, so going into the future, I don't even know what to say. Obviously, I can't predict everything because I'm sure the book is going to be just as long, if not longer than this one. And it was a long book, a lot happened. So yeah, they all have magic now, which is crazy and awesome. And assuming Anan survives, even more awesome. I was living for the romance in this, and that's why Anan's issues at the end hurt me so much. I was so feeling that relationship. And Anan and Arani are obviously like the strong couple, and they're going to be together. And I just, oh my gosh, I can't gush enough about this book. I loved it so much. I am so excited for whatever comes next in this world. I'm officially going to read anything Tomi writes because this was absolutely amazing. And you can just tell the power and the care that went into this book because it's so intricate, it's so well put together, and she did such a good job of having both this entertaining adventure and this strong, important political message in it, but not overwhelming it. And it's put together so well. I gave it 5 stars. There was never a question. I think everybody needs to read this book, and hopefully you already have if you're still watching this. Please recommend it to everybody that you know because it's worth it. Anyway, I think that is it, although I'm sure I have more to say, so please feel free to comment below and get into a conversation with me because I have a lot of feels about this book. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Follow me on Twitter at RitaGonnaRead, just like my YouTube channel, and subscribe by clicking up there or down below. I will talk to you next time. Bye! Hey, Ellie and Dobby here. Like the video?